Bonjour! My name is Wildkard. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for watching my content and giving me the pleasure and privilege to talk about the greatest sport in the world, rugby. And this weekend, the biggest game of the weekend, and probably one of the most important games, going into the Rugby World Cup 2023. France taking on the Springboks in Marseille. Ooh. In case you're wondering, I know what you're thinking, in case you're wondering. The Rugby World Cup is 302 days away, and yes, if France wants to win the Rugby World Cup for the first time in its history, it's very likely that it will have to run through the mighty Springboks to do so, because it's a very high chance that France will have to play the Springboks in the quarterfinals. In fact, 50% chance. And if that wasn't to happen, then the two teams will most likely meet in the grand final, where France will have to pry the Webb Ellis Cup from Rassie Erasmus's cold, dead hands if they want to win it for the first time in its history. So yeah, this is going to be a cracker. This is the prelude. This is the warm-up. This is everything we want to see going into the Rugby World Cup. Now, history between France and the Springboks, a little bit one-sided in the last 13 years or so, and France hasn't beaten the Springboks since 2009. Yeah, and it's been one-sided affair for the Springboks quite comfortably in most of these matches. In fact, all the matches except for one with the Springboks. It's just the last couple. But yeah, overall, this is gonna be a pretty difficult task for the Springboks this time, because the French. Let's go to the French first, because the French is currently the undefeated Grand Slam champions of Six Nations. They were pretty much looking like the unbeatable team already last year, and this year they've taken that one step forward with their team. And a very young team with a lot of depth and a lot of flair, and Fabien Gaultier has basically handcrafted this team exactly the way he wants to. And in preparation for the biggest show of the rugby world. So just quick recap here. So France undefeated. Only game that had a bit of an issue in the Six Nations was against Wales in Cardiff, which was a away game. At home, they really didn't have much of an issue. The Irish game, a little bit rusty going into the second half, but overall, France was able to stay ahead for the entire duration of the game. In July, France did play Japan with a second-tier team. Still, French team. A lot of the French players seem to think that these games don't count, even though it is technically a national game. It does count. It is a national team game against another nation, and Japan did play quite well against the French team, especially in that second test. They were able to pretty much hold themselves ahead before France were finally able to close out near the end of the match. And last week, and by the way, all of you South Africans need to send your Aussie mate a big thank you, okay? Because the Wallabies has really battered and brutalized the French team for you. So the French has been softened by the Australians for last week, where they won a very close match, 30 points to 29 against the Wallabies. So just a quick look at the stats. The one thing that the stat is a little bit of a concern for the French is their scrum. Surprisingly, the big scrum pack from the French team had a lot of issues against the Wallabies, who was not really even known to be that big of a scrummaging team. But Tanel Tupou being brought back into the squad, slowly getting himself back into form, really did a quite a good number on the French forward pack. Cyril Bay had a bit of trouble, and even Antonio Uni was having a bit of a tough day against James Slipper. So yeah, you can see France only won 50% of their own scrum. Overall, the penalty count has been quite average for the French team. If you have a quick look at the players' stats, nothing to be particularly special about, except for the run meters at fullback position. Thomas Ramos seems to be really like to run the ball a lot with 113 run meters, and we'll have a look at that. Damien Cheslin Colby, who was a fullback for the Springboks, did not do nearly as much run meters as we would expect, especially in comparison to Ramos. So this seems to be a thing where France likes to run the ball from the fullback position after receiving a kick, instead of, I guess, return kicks. Seems to be a thing. So the workhorses from the French team, again, Charles Ollivon, Gregory Aldrich are the two biggest workhorses for the team in terms of their run rate, run meters, carry count, and also the tackle count as well. The two guys are quite impressive in their work rate. Penalties, the forward pack is probably the one that's given away the most issues in terms of discipline for the French team. So a lot of the penalties, maybe they're considered scrum penalties as well. Antonio had 2 penalties, scrum penalties maybe. Wilkie had a bit of an issue there, and Sarah Bai, he didn't have any penalty count, but it seems that the Charles Ollivon, the captain, probably should working on his penalty count a little bit there. But overall, pretty good for France in terms of their performance against Australia on paper. Now, the other game, the Springboks, as we have looked at. So overall, the Springboks season has been up and down quite a bit. They had that obviously issue with their head coach, Rassi Rasmus, not able to be in the team. So the team performance really suffered quite a bit as a result of that. But as the team, last week was the first game. The Springboks had Rassi Rasmus returning to the side, and it really did show a difference. I did not actually, to be quite frank, expect the Springboks to be so close against Ireland. The game could have literally gone both ways, and the fact that Ireland has beaten the All Blacks quite convincingly in New Zealand, especially in that second and third test, where Ireland was comfortably beat the All Blacks. That was very comfortably beat the All Blacks with not too much of an issue. I did think that the Springboks coming out of that game last week with only a 3-point loss was quite a good effort, to be honest, especially considering the lack of kick of the Springboks. I thought the Springboks did really well to shut down the Irish fast attacking style from the forward pack that utilized really well against the All Blacks. They're also able to shut down Johnny Sexton's attack options quite a lot with that rush defense, which I thought was really, really impressive considering the All Blacks basically didn't know how to deal with it. With that being said, the overall performance of the Springboks this year has been up and downs. They lost to Wales for the first time this year in July. They lost a very crucial second test match against the New Zealand in Johannesburg. They also lost that first test match against Australia. And there are some of these blemishes that the Springboks fans would really like to forget, especially the one against Australia. Should not have happened. Completely nothing was clicking for the Springboks that day. But overall, it does look like Rassi Rasmus returning to the team has brought a little bit more of a confidence to the team and brought a little bit more of strategic thinking back in the team as well. The team definitely showed a lot less pointless kicking that a lot of criticism has gone into. With that being said, let's have a look at some of the stats from the Springboks. So just really quickly, the one thing you'll notice that the Springboks set piece were pretty good. One line-out loss, bit of rust. I think that was Eben Esbeth getting his line-out stolen. Literally the first time I've ever seen anyone was able to steal a line-out from Eben Esbeth. Looked like might be a communication issue. Maybe they were having issues hearing each other. But yeah, I could not believe that Eben Esbeth lost the line-out to what's his name? The number 5 from Ireland. Anyway, at some reason I can't remember people's names when I'm recording videos, but James Ryan. But yeah, so with that being said, the one issue for the Springbok team in the overall match stats is the discipline is a little bit higher than what French had against the Wallabies. So 12 penalties conceded, and that could come back to hurt the Springboks because the French has a very, very good kicker, and if given the opportunity, they will pop the ball through anywhere within your 50. So that's going to be a big issue for Springboks. We shall go through the lineup in a second. The Springboks do have a designated kicker this time, but on the bench. So this is not going to be the discipline is going to be extremely crucial for the Springboks if they wanted to stay in touch with France on the weekend. Overall, like I mentioned, the one big thing that kind of stood out for me is the fullback position. Cheslin Colby was a fullback, didn't really have any run meters compared to Ramos from France. So in terms of counter-attacking, it looks like they're resorting more of a kicking plan when their fullbacks do receive that ball. Outside of that, the workhorses for the Springboks, as you would expect, Ibn Etzebeth right up there with 16 tackles and 0 missed tackles. That is quite impressive. Maybe he was a bit angry with that lost line out, but it's pretty standard stuff for the Springboks. And let's quickly go through some of the final few touches before we go have a look at lineup. So this will be in Marseille, and it's going to be on a Saturday night. A little bit of a humidity, overcast, but nothing too crazy. Not going to be rain or anything for the day. And let's have a look at the lineup. So first up, the French team has fielded unchanged. Yes, unchanged 15 from last week. The exact same 15 players that has been in the Wallabies. Whereas the Springboks has made quite a bit of shuffling around. Probably the biggest thing here is that the French is playing the bomb squad strategy with 6 forwards on the bench, 6 forwards and 2 backs reserves. Whereas the Springboks, the mighty Springboks with the bomb squad, actually playing 5 forwards on the bench and 3 back reserves on the bench. So yeah, this is quite a thing that intrigues me a little bit. I really want to see how this is going to work, because the French does have that strategy where they try to impose their dominance with their big forwards, something that the Springboks did to literally win the World Cup. So we'll see how the Springboks deal with their own strategy against the best team in the world right now. Many people say second best team in the world right now. So this is quite an intriguing academic almost experience. I'm really intrigued to see. With that being said, so let's have a look at the key. So also, just before I get into it, there's also one really big thing with the Springboks. Makazolo, he is on the bench. Yeah, so Makazolo Mapimpi is on the bench, and we'll have to talk about that in a second. But this is the first game in his career for the Springboks coming off the bench for Makazolo Mapimpi. So with that being said, let's go through the squad. So Cyril Bai, Lucia Prob, Julian McCont, the hooker, and Uni Antonio comes in at number 3 for the French, the biggest prop in the world. We shall see how he handles the South Africans. As we have seen that despite the size, his technique might not be the absolute best. I think the Springboks may have something to say about that with the technique going into this game. And also notice that Antonio is really tall. He's almost 2 meters in height. And the Springboks has made a decision to put on the short props on the field. So maybe that is something that the Springboks wants to target. The height makes him bend that down just a little bit more. Maybe he has to bend his back just a little bit, so that will mess up his body position. Give the Springboks a scrum advantage, because the Springboks will naturally be lower in the scrum, making Antonio bend down just a little bit, especially when he gets tired. Getting a huge guy like that to bend down just a little bit lower could potentially be the difference between a tired head win and a penalty there. So yeah, could potentially get you a penalty or a tired head win right there. So as we can see, Ox Nche and Bungi Bunabi both move stuff on the bench. Nche and Bunagi both 176 centimeters tall. Both are quite short compared to the French forwards, especially with someone like 197. So Uni will have to bend down quite a bit to match up with Ox Nche. Last week against Jem Slipper. Jem Slipper is about 185, so Slipper is still quite tall. So he's going to come down another 10 centimeters or so up against Nche. So we shall see how that's going to play out against the big prop. And is that going to make a difference? We shall have to see. I do foresee, especially if the Springboks don't have advantage early in the game in the scrummaging, when it gets closer to halftime, when the fatigue starts kick in, we shall see whether or not the Springbok scrum is going to put some hurt on the French pack. I think that'll be the crucial period where the Springboks can score some points. Franz Malherbe stands at number 3 jersey for the Springboks, 138 kilos. He's quite tall, so 190, but still considerably shorter than Antonio, and he's up against Cyril Bai, the loose hair prop from French. Cyril Bai is a bit of a ball carrier as well, so quite dangerous in that regard. We shall see if that's going to make a bit of a difference for the French team. In the French locking positions, Cameron Wookie, a newcomer, started with the French last year. He's already the mainstay guy for the French team. It tells you how good he is. He's an absolute athletic freak. He's 23 years of age, and basically the story was that Fabian Gaultier just like plucked him out of nowhere and then started like tried him out for the French team last year, and he's just so impressive. He has such really good line out, just solid set piece, and his work rate at the breakdown is incredibly impressive. His ability to turn over the ball at the breakdown is like, it's almost like second nature to him. So he's really, really dangerous guy. He plays almost like a loose forward for the French side. Thibaut Flamant comes in number 5 for the French team. For the Springboks, one change in the number 5 jersey as Luc Diaga had a shoulder injury. Luc Diaga has an injury. I can't remember exactly, but he had an injury, so Luc Diaga is out. Ibn Esbeth stays number 4 jersey. He would not be happy about that line-out loss last week. I'm sure he's going to put in an even bigger effort this week against the French. And Esbeth will be the most important player in the field for the Springboks, especially in the 4-pack. He's the one that kind of leads the charge for the Springboks, and he plays the full 80 minutes. Not a minute that's going to be missed out. So his performance is really, really important for the Springboks, and him having a good game means that the Springboks 4-packs is going to have a good game. And if the Springbok 4-pack has a good game, the Springboks will overall have a really, really good performance with that 4 platform set for the backline to utilize. Frank Moster obviously moves up from the bench. Frank Moster has been playing a lot of blindside flanker at number 7 jersey for the Springboks, but his natural position is a lock, so it's good to see him at that number 5 jersey. I do think that's the Springboks, at number 5 jersey. So that's the setup for the Springboks. Locks, in the loose forwards, Anthony Jelonk gets number 6 jersey in the blindside flanker position. Siak Khaleesi, the captain, gets number 6 jersey for the open side position for the Springboks. Charles Olivon gets the open side position for the French team, and he will be the captain. Pieter-Sepp du Toit gets the blindside position for the Springboks at 7. Probably shouldn't call it blindside. It's more like the right-hand side, and they play left and right in the Springboks. So 6 is left, I think. 7 is right, so it's left and right. So du Toit will be on the right-hand side of the scrum, basically on the tight head side. So they intentionally have him there to give the tight head side a bit more weight, because Pieter-Sepp du Toit can also play lock as well. So the Springboks technically have 2 locks back in the tight head position to give that bit of more punch as well. Something that's a lot of other countries like England trying to replicate, but it just doesn't work because the fact that the South Africans play left and right, they don't play open and blindside. So it's a bit of a different dynamic the way they play the scrummaging. In the number 8 jersey, Gregory Aldred comes in number 8 for France, and Jasper Visa, the high ball box kick specialist, comes in number 8 for the Springboks. He hasn't been that effective recently against due to the kicking game has been shifting away a lot from the box kick, but any sort of short kicks, close kicks, Jasper Visa will be the one that presses that advantage. In the backline, Antoine Dupont comes in at number 9, the most exciting, the best number 9 in the world by far right now. Last week's performance, I thought he just did a very basic performance. He did have one kick over the top where he tried to show a bit of French flair. That backfired, leading to the Wallabies running a 95-meter try, coast-to-coast try, you might call it. So, and that was the result of him trying to do a bit of a tricky box kick over the top in the Wallabies 22. So that was probably, and after that he stopped. So he really didn't show much of that kicking from the 9 position anymore after that kind of backfire. But overall, he is one of the most dynamic, exciting players in the World Rugby today in the number 9 jersey. Faf de Klerk gets caught up on the bench at number 9. Faf also has that kind of flair that you typically look for at the number 9 jersey. But Faf is more of a kicking kind of specialist, more of a kicking strategy. Faf don't really run the ball that much, whereas Dupont will run the ball when he sees the opportunity, almost acts like a 10 out of the 9 jersey. And number 10 jersey, this is a big matchup for both teams. Romain Ntamak gets in number 10, a young guy, really good handling, good directions, good kicking game, and I don't know what else to say. He's I think his dad or something used to play for France, so yeah, the rugby blood definitely runs in him. He's up against, the best Springboks in the history of the world, Damien Valemsa, except he had a really terrible game last week, so he might not be the best in the Springboks ever anymore. He might drop down to like 5th or something after that performance last week. His kicking was really inaccurate, not just goal kicking, but overall kicks from hand, the kicking game, so to speak, was quite poor from Valencia last week. His handling was okay, but overall, yeah, was a sloppy game for him last week for the Springboks. Almost looked like he was a bit out of his depth there last week against Johnny Sexton. So this week we have to see how he goes. Obviously, the coaches have gone through a lot of things with him this week, and hopefully, he's gonna improve performance. And with that being said, he will also be kicking for the foreseeable first half at least of the match, because there's no designated kicker once again in the team. Cheslin Kobe, again, he's played a 10 before. His kicking looked slightly better than Dimian Valencia, but not by much. So it's going to be, the Springboks probably going to start with more of an attacking plan, as they did against the Irish, and then maybe bring on a kicker in the second half to try to close out the game with Manny Lebok on the bench. And the number 11 jersey, Yoram Moefana, again, another new guy that kind of just started with the French team and is starting to really making a lot of headwaves for the French side, coming in at number 11 jersey. Curly Adensa takes over the number 11 jersey from Makazula Mapimpi, gets number 11 jersey. Again, with Curly at 11 and Cheslin Kobe at 14, I do foresee potentially more kicking game from the Springboks, because the fact that Curly Alensa is a high ball specialist. They opted for him on the field over Makazolo. I think Razi's initial kind of like statement was they wanted to, give the players they know that's going to perform, like Makazolo Mapimpi. They know he's going to perform, so that's why he's on the bench. They want to give the newer players a bit more opportunities in this big test match. That's kind of like Razi's statement leading to this game, but I do think that there's definitely a strategic component to it as well, with an extra high ball specialist at a number 11 jersey. And number 12, Jonathan Dante, the big ball carrier. He's matching up against Damien Dialende, another big ball carrier. This will be a really big battle in the centers to see who gets the dominant tackles and who gets the line breaks. It's going to be difficult. Dante has a little bit of a size advantage, whilst Dialende is a little bit taller. So we shall see if that reach is going to match with the size difference. And will be interesting to see. Gayo Fikyu, another hard carry ball runner in a center position at number 13 for the French. And he's just another brutalizer in the center field position, almost another 12 in some sense, the way that he plays. He's up against Jesse Creel, who plays quite a different style than Fikyu. Jesse Creel plays more of a high ball. He plays like a winger style of the 13 jersey, and it's a little bit different. Again, Jesse Creel, another kind of high ball specialist, pressure style, leads me to think that there could be more kicking game coming in from the Springboks, especially with the Fat on the field as at number 9. Number 14, Damien Pennold, the guy that put the dagger in the heart of the Australians last week with his spectacular individual try. Pennold, by the way, in case you didn't know, he's missing front teeth. He has fake teeth. The guy with the fake teeth beat the Wallabies, okay? That's true story. The guy with fake teeth beat the Wallabies. So this is once again going to be a huge challenge for the Springboks to neutralize his speed and agility and just raw upper body strength that he brings. He shocked off 2 defenders to score that final try out of nowhere. I thought for sure he was going to get tackled, but no, he just strutted his way through with ease. It's against Cheslin Kobe. Another menace on the field. I was expecting Cheslin to have a bit more running game last week. We did not see that. Maybe we'll see him this week with a more running game. He is one of the most exciting players carrying the ball. One of the few players in the world, kind of similar to Pennold, that can create a try out of nowhere. So this will be a really interesting matchup to see which one of the wingers is going to get that opportunity to do some footwork and create a spectacular moment. Number fullback position, Thomas Ramos stays number 15. Whilst Willie Leroux gets that number 15 jersey for Springboks. Again, Willie is a pretty steady player for the Springboks. Decent kicking, decent running. Sometimes when he starts game, he tends to be a bit off. But overall, it's going to be just what the Springboks need in the 15 jersey. Ramos, like I showed just before last week, is not one of the guys that just gets the ball and kick the ball. He likes to run the ball a bit before he kicks it. So he does have a really high run meters, and he does like to exploit those gaps before just blindingly kicking the ball away. In the bench, this is probably the game is going to be won. I think the French made 2 changes. Actually, that's wrong. The new addition is Reda Wadi. So Reda Wadi, a debutant for the French, and another debutant, Bastien Calureal, comes in at number 20 for the Springboks. So that's the only 2 changes. Mavuka is not a new addition. He played last week. So the starting props for French is Pato Mauvaka, number 16. Reda, I think it might be called Vardy. Reda Vardy comes in number 17. Sipili Falatea again gets number 18 jersey. For the Springboks, the bomb squad sort of front rowers gets to finish the game. Malcolm Marks moves down from starting 2 to number 16. Stephen Kitsop, number 17. And Vincent Koch will probably do a number on Vardy and number 18 jersey in a tight head proposition. Romain Taufefe Nua, number 19, gets number 9 jersey. I did notice that he was on the field quite early last week. I think he was on the field in the first half. So we shall see if that's going to happen again if the French pack puts him on early. I think it was on early. I'm pretty sure I saw him early in the first half. And we shall see if that's going to be another thing that the French do. Bring him on early for that extra size. Marvin Ori comes in for the Springboks at number 19 as an extra lock option. And number 20 for the Springboks is Huaka Smith with speed and breakdowns as his specialization, and also he carries the ball quite a bit as well for the number 20 jersey. Number 21 for the French team is again an extra lock. Sekou Makalu is the number 21 jersey, another forward for the French, and Kobus Reinach gets his first test. I think this is his first test. Did he play? Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is his first test. His first test for the Springboks in 2022. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure this is his first one. Did he? Was he on the bench last week? No, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, no. Faf was on the bench last week. Anyway, Kobus Reinach gets the number 21 jersey. Number 22, Maxime Koulou for the French team. And Manny Lebock gets caught in as a kicker for the Springboks. Lebock has about 75%, I think 78% kicking percentage, which is okay for club rugby. For international tests, it's still a bit short. In international tests, you want like 85 to 90% kicking percentage, but still better than the 55% that Damien Valemsa has. We shall see if that's going to make a difference. And finally, Matthew Jalibert gets number 23 jersey for France, and Makuzulu comes in at number 23 for the Springboks to finish off the lineup. Let me know your predictions, guys. I think the Springboks will win this one, I think. Hard to say. If the Springboks can manage the discipline, which the Springboks used to be a lot better last year, to be fair. The Springboks discipline hasn't been nearly as good as they were. So if the Springboks can bring the discipline good like they did last year, I think the Springboks can win this one with the 4-pack. I think the Springboks 4-pack, especially when it comes to maul and scrum, is just a little bit more technical. And I think the Springboks will win by 5. Let's say 27 points to 22. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. And do appreciate you being here. And see you guys for the review. Cheers.